Goodbye, good riddance. I don't ever want to see these fraudsters in LA again. And I'm not talking about the Lakers, I'm talking about those sorry ass Clippers. It seems like any fucking time, I want to give this team just a little bit of credit, a little bit of props, a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. They consistently find a way to fuck that shit up. Hey, hey, the Los Angeles Clippers are a fucking disgrace. Everyone from the last man on the roster all the way up to Steve Ballmer's goofy ass should have their heads in shame until we see them next season. It was so fucking embarrassing what I just saw on that television screen. I mean, Steve Ballmer even flew them out personally. Over 100 Clipper fans, which I didn't even know existed, by the way. I'm sure some of those niggas were his family members and friends, but he did all that shit just for them to get demolished in Game 7 by the Denver Nuggets. What an embarrassment. Truly, what a fucking embarrassment. And you know, I could spend time talking about how Norman Powell stunk up the joint multiple times throughout this series. I mean, you can change the man, but you can't change the idea. Going from Paul George to Norman Powell as your third option, yeah, good luck with that. Or hell, I could talk about the fact that Bogdanovich took on the role of 2021 Joe Harris and was a complete shitter throughout the entire fucking series. But honestly, I would be doing those players and the Clippers a disservice if I didn't hold the two main culprits responsible, and that's James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. What a pitiful performance from James Harden and Kawhi in that Game 7. And yes, you heard me correctly, because I don't care what the numbers say about Kawhi Leonard, but he did not play up to the standards that a lot of people gave him, especially after that explosion of a Game 2. In a situation like a Game 7, you are supposed to be carried by your superstar players. And when it comes to James and Kawhi, they did not hold up their end of the bargain. And it especially becomes worse when you look at the Denver Nuggets side of it. Neither Jokic or Jamal Murray played that great. They were both pretty mediocre for their standards, especially as neither of them even cracked 20 points. Meanwhile, you got Uno on the Clippers who couldn't even crack double digits. But before we get to that bearded slob, let's talk about the Claw, because I have a lot of things to say about Kawhi. Now, I do think Kawhi Leonard avoids a lot of slander, and a lot of that is because Kawhi Leonard is a relatively quiet guy. He doesn't bring expectations on himself. I mean, the only time I can think of him even doing something remotely close to that is when he went to the Clippers and he said he was the king of LA in that commercial. And what's wild is since that commercial, he has not touched the court in a Western Conference Finals. And also another reason is that Kawhi Leonard has suffered so many injuries over the last handful of seasons that it almost feels rewarding and congratulatory to see him playing at this high of a level despite all of those situations. But I'm not gonna let people get away with the dumbass shit they were saying on the internet when Kawhi Leonard had that crazy ass Game 2. I was seeing people say that, man, who knows what Kawhi Leonard would be. He was such a crazy what if, man. Yeah, dumbass niggas talking about Kawhi could have put himself top 10 all time, or maybe even the GOAT debate had he not gotten hurt. Fucking idiots, I tell you. Fucking idiots. Or even the people that were saying that Kawhi Leonard, when healthy, is still a top 5 player. You guys need to realize something about Kawhi. Is it possible for him to have performances that are very, very reminiscent of what we've seen in the past, like in 2019 or 2021? Absolutely. He is still capable of being the best player on the court despite who's on the court with him on any given night when he's healthy. But the problem is that applies to about like 15 to 20 other players in the league. The difference is you have guys like Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, Giannis, Jokic, Shea. They do that shit consistently night in and night out. Kawhi does not do that anymore. He can give you performances like he did in Game 2, where he missed like what, 2-3 shots throughout the entire game. One of the best playoff games I've seen in a very long time. But then literally the next game, in Game 3, he'll give you 21 points on 41% shooting from the field. And to Kawhi's credit, I don't even think he was bad in that game. But that level of play is more reminiscent of a top 15 to 20 player, not a top 5 to 10 guy. And people are gonna look at Kawhi's numbers throughout the entire series and think that Kawhi actually played great basketball. And for the most part, I would say he was good, not great, but good. But my issue is those numbers are deceiving you if you actually think he played great ball. For starters, with a series like this, the volume is completely lacking. 25 points per game on 17 shots a game as well. That is not the typical playoff Kawhi that we know, especially considering the fact that he's going up against against a bottom 10 defense in the NBA? The Nuggets were 22nd in defensive rating. That amount of volume, especially in a game 7 to take only 13 shots, is embarrassing. And if you actually watched the game and weren't such an efficiency gobbler, you would see that it was tougher for Kawhi Leonard to get to his spots. The Nuggets were being a lot more physical with him. They were bumping him around. They were trapping him, blitzing him, sending doubles. And though Kawhi has improved as a playmaker and passer, that's not his forte. Hence, you have a game 7, your season on the line, and you only take 13 shots. But speaking of niggas afraid to shoot the ball, that brings me to the bearded slob, James fucking Harden. Where do I begin with this clown? I mean, you talk about being passive and putting the box in a game 7. Kawhi ain't got shit on James Harden. Harden took 8 shots in that game. 8 fucking shots. And I really hate to say stuff is mental in basketball, because you can't just sit there and overanalyze players to the point that you're now doing psychoanalysis. But this game was very reminiscent of James Harden's last game as a Philadelphia 76er, where he also only took 11 shots in a game 7. In these games, Harden is looking uninterested. He does not have energy whatsoever. The effort is obviously lacking defensively. He's turning the ball over lackadaisically, and overall the body language is just giving, I don't give a fuck about this shit right now. I'm ready to go home. Now, am I saying Harden is actually thinking that? Absolutely not. I don't think he's going out there with that mindset. But at this point, when it comes to playoff moments like elimination games, closeout games, at this point, what is the excuse? Tell me, Rockets fans, Harden fans, somebody speak up and tell me, what is the excuse at this point for him? We've seen countless historic regular season after regular season after regular season, to the point that plenty of people have put him in the conversation as probably the greatest player to never win a championship. And he's worthy of being in that discussion, don't get me wrong. But how do you explain going from a 23, 9-6 player in the regular season that will probably make an All-NBA team to now being in a game 7 where you shoot 2 of 8 from the field and you end up with less points than Peyton Watson and Kobe Brown? Somebody please try to make this make sense for me. I'm begging you guys in the comment section, y'all. At this point, to me, it has to be mental. It just has to be. It wasn't like this Nuggets team was suffocating defensively, okay? Jokic was literally a walking layup line for anyone who drove past their defender and met him at the rim. And on top of that, Kawhi Leonard was the key focus defensively. Aaron Gordon was guarding him throughout the majority of this series, not James Harden. And in a game 7 where, like I said earlier, the other team's stars, Jokic and Murray, didn't play up to par. If Harden just gave us what he gave us in game 6, which was a great performance by the way, or hell, maybe even just 80% of what he gave us in game 6, we might be having a different conversation on that outcome last night. You know, and let me say this about the James Harden hive. It is crazy to me how I made an edited video about that guy with that epic rant on James Harden. I threw the ether beat on that motherfucker and it went viral all over Twitter. By the way, I don't know that guy's name, but I made you famous. Just want to let you know that. But despite that tweet being proven true last year in the playoffs, it's like the Harden sexuals just completely forget and have amnesia about what we've seen in James Harden's career. Because throughout this entire regular season, they were, in my quotes, begging me for an update, saying, please give us an update. What do you gotta say now, bum? What do you gotta say now, huh? What do you gotta say now? And now I wanna flip the script on you clowns. What the fuck do y'all have to say now? This is why nobody gives a fuck about his regular season exploits. We've seen Harden do better in the regular season than this. This is not new. Nobody thought James Harden was some trash regular season player, but we knew in the playoffs he was a dropper in elimination games, and he did that again. So update, you clowns. Where are y'all? Y'all are nowhere to be found. Absolutely nowhere to be found. So at the end of the day, I'm at the point where the Clippers mean nothing to me. I don't care if these niggas win 82 games next year. I won't give a flying fuck. Because just like the title says, the Clippers are a disgrace.